Mars to Phobos Skyway. Sol. 3667. 616. TSC. As he cleaned his cybernetic arm during the short transport from HQ to the research station, Dr. Ray Falber looked to his colleague. I gotta say, Doctor, you truly know how to explain advanced physics to the layman. Professor Schubert Balkan interjected without looking away from his data slate.
And showed real courage, asking for more money. Why did you want those funds anyway?
The tall, dark-haired physicist withdrew a bottle from his pocket and took 2 of the pills within. I'd like to see you do better when one of the richest men alive stares at you while his assistant throws things into an incinerator. And I needed those funds for something off Comet Road. The ancient computer scientist smirked at that answer.
So, you need 200 billion for your drug habit? What the hell are you taking now anyway, Dave?
Falber added.
And Hammond's never had anyone incinerated.
The physicist rolled his eyes and answered. It's mostly Addis, and no, we needed 200 billion to buy rats for smuggler, and he hasn't had anyone incinerated yet. Dr. Falber looked back to Dave after refitting a loose synth tendon. Why do you need to buy rats off Comet Road? Don't our normal public funds cover lab animals? Dr. Dave gently rubbed his temples as he replied, Yes, our fund covers raccoons. The No Rats on Mars ad means we can't import them. Didn't they tell you that when you immigrated? The Terran-born engineer shifted in his seat to look more directly at the drug-addled scientist next to him. No, but I thought it was weird we used raccoons. What's wrong with the raccoons, though? I find them useful in my department. Dave shook out a fistful of mostly Addies and began to chew them before responding. Rats are smarter, cleaner, easier to handle, and your department is violating the New Zealand conventions. Do you want to have your cyber raccoons all crawling up in your ass when some idiot decides to make them sentient? We're not violating anything because they're not sentient. They're medical patients under the Martian Veterinary Act, which I was told about. That act only applies if you weren't the one to cripple them in the first place. Balkan looked up from his data slate.
Don't listen to him, Falber. He's just mad that the raccoons don't want to be turned into goo, and clawed him last time we worked on the Beacon project. Follow your cybercoon-filled dreams.
Before Dave could retort, he began to feel the effects of the Mosey Addies kick in, and the automated announcer chimed. Now arriving at Phobos Research Station. Have a nice day at work. As the few moments of the transport docking passed, multiple teams of eager researchers, each hand-picked from the most elite of Terra schools, awaited their new bosses. As the transport hatch depressurized and the ramp lowered, they heard shouting.
Odd one, not 3, 4! 4 raccoons! One in my face and biting my balls! I still have the scars, I am not doing that again! If that cheap bastard won't buy us rats, I'll get his Yawashula damned intern to handle the fuckers. And you know what, Falber? He's going to regret giving Dave Johannesburg raccoons! Because I'm taking your cybercoon project. I'll use a space rock to make the best cybercoons the universe has ever seen. And I'll take over the galaxy with the cybercoons!
As Dr. Dave Johannesburg finished his rant, he looked to the confused new hires and the veteran team members with hung heads and handcuffed faces.
Well, what the hell is everyone standing there? We have a weird-ass space rock to do some science on. Let's get going!
As Johannesburg rushed through the gathered crowd, multiple of the senior team members followed with looks of somber acceptance of their lot in life. Others stayed to assist the sober department heads brief the new transfers to the Phobos Black Site. Terra, New York, Sol, 3664, 617, TSC. Frank Taylor's absent-mindedly listened to the news report his roommate was watching while staring at the comm unit, attempting to connect with anyone on Mars. Of course we want to avoid an invasion of the Australian wastes, but you can't really think we can just let the emu cyber barbarians continue unchecked. The Australian people played Yawasusla, started World War IV, and now they're paying for it with an army of genetically enhanced cyborg emus. We shouldn't allow them to build an antimatter engine. We're sorry. We cannot make a connection due to heavy use of our services. Please hang up and try again later. Frank punched the end call button, somewhere in the back of his mind, realizing the size of the button was probably to replace slamming a phone. Everything you said is ridiculous. If you're saying that emus will develop interplanetary travel, that ship has sailed, literally. We already know emu mercenaries make up the majority of Oort cloud extremist. The power in the apartment cut out, and was quickly replaced with emergency lighting. The comm unit flickered with a limited allowance to display a message reading: Local generator down for urgent maintenance. Please install a Lloydco DSC-1 or better to your power bank. Frank swore under his breath and began to search through the storage cabinet for the overpriced battery. Power's out. I noticed. We still have a spare DSC? I think we have a half-charged one in the bathtub. Frank turned from the cabinet to question why a power supply capable of powering a small car was in the bathtub, but decided against asking when he noticed the lanky, long-haired drug dealer taking a bong rip. He went to the bathroom and gathered the power unit before heading to the den. He approached the coffee table only to see it had already been moved, revealing the DS outlet beneath, which had been filled with empty beer cans, cigarette butts, and wrappers for Comet Ferrari brand gummy bears. Bro, you heard about the space emus coming to steal your DSC? Yeah, I also noticed you've been using a fucking power outlet as an ashtray garbage can hybrid. What the fuck, dude? Ding dong. Sorry, bro. I thought it was the waste bin. Frank moved a handful of cans to the side and looked at the corner of the room with the waste bin. And you decided to move the coffee table to find it? Ding dong. Yeah. I was kinda tripping at like 3 AM watching that black hole documentary. What the fuck are you on? Bam! Bam! Frank sighed and tried to find the handvac he usually kept in the den. Get the door, man. It's probably the Comet Row guy. Sure, bro. Frank slowly worked through the mess that was the den in the dim red emergency lighting. He heard the front door unlock and then slam open. A brief, oh shit, sounded from his roommate, before a solid thud against synthwood flooring was heard, and a rush of heavy footsteps followed. As he looked up, he saw a bright flashlight mounted on firearms aimed towards him, held by CorpSec officers in full body armor. Haven Technologies employee number 334112782-ITD. You are to be informed that the Ares Assisted Living Facility your family members resided in, under Lloydco Insurance, was within the radius of the Ares Crater Exclusion Zone. You are also to turn in all electronic devices and come with us. Before he could respond, he was stood up and brought to the kitchen. There he saw his roommate with a hypodermic dart sticking out of his chest. Several armed goons swept the apartment room by room, which was not difficult in a 5.5 apartment. As Frank snapped back to the present moment, and his eyes adjusted to the light of the CorpSec flashlights, he noticed that the only identifying marking on their gunmetal grey armour were shoulder decals, with Athena Sec numbered 1 through, apparently, 8. He wanted to tell off the intruding goons, he wanted to demand a warrant, and he wanted to die for the sync gun his roommate had insisted on keeping, but all he managed was a rather unimpressive sounding, "The hell's going on here?" The goon, designated Athena 1, began to pat him down and answered, "Like I said, you're to come with us and turn over all electronic devices. You'll be brought off planet. You had a name change put through on your behalf. Your new name is Daniel Quinn. Athena 3, where are we on that Tortnet node?" "Bedroom, sir. Not the junkies. We need a minute to keep noise down if you want us to dig it out." "Dig it out ASAP without making noise. ATs wants the data." Frank was unsure of how to react to these circumstances. He was unsure of how anyone should react to these circumstances. You're having an entry-level IT worker disappeared over a crypto miner? 1 finished his pat down and clicked his radio. 2 through 6 stay here for cleanup and to wait for their contact. 7 and 8 help escort the package. Before responding to Frank with, "There's probably more to it than that. I know this is a lot to take in, but we're CorpSec. You ever hear what they say about us?" Frank glanced over as 7 and 8 flanked him from behind and replied, "You're not paid to know the details." Bloody oath. "Please, follow me." Not seeing many options, Frank cooperated with the demands. "Is Jerry dead?" "I doubt it, mate. It's anesthetic. He'll have a hangover and probably short-term memory loss as a likely complication of drug combinations, but he'll be fine. Probably." As he exited his apartment, he was ushered into a small civilian-class transport which, from the inside, clearly had heavy aftermarket modifications of the military variety. With a moment to breathe, Frank finally had a chance to sort through what had happened. "So my grandparents are dead?" "I never said that. I said their care facility was in the exclusion zone." "So they were evacuated, or I suppose you aren't paid to know?" 1 simply tapped his nose and said, "You'll know when we know." Frank could feel the gentle inertia of leaving atmosphere before 7 cut the ship's engines and held orbit above Terra. Frank stared down at the blue marble, turned more green through the climate algae initiative hundreds of years prior. After a few minutes, Frank vaguely registered the brief ringing of a comm unit, and a quick conversation. Only a few seconds later, one placed an armored hand on his shoulder and said, "Probably would be better to see in other circumstances." "Yeah, probably. What now? You gonna tell me I'll be replaced with an android?" That seemed to elicit a chuckle from one. "Nah, just haven't figured out droids that can pass something called the Turing test yet. It's actually some bloody good news, Daniel. Someone paid for details. You're going to Phobos to see 80s. And your grandparents."